Tonight on CBC Vancouver News.
We are currently experiencing a high call volume.
1 hour, 1 million phone calls. BC's COVID-19 booking system overwhelmed. Also,
right now, we have a wait list.
A surge in demand for outdoor activities in preparation of another summer closer to home. And
I just didn't want to be alive anymore.
the bombshell royal interview that has Britain and the world reacting.
This is CBC Vancouver News.
Good evening and thanks for joining us. Well, 1 million phone calls in just 1 hour. BC's COVID-19 vaccine booking system bombarded today with people trying to book appointments for those over 90 and Indigenous people over 65. As Tina Lovegreen reports, the high call volume has been frustrating for many.
Here goes.
Thank you for calling Island Health's COVID-19 vaccination appointment line.
This message over and over again since 7 a.m. today.
I could almost recite it.
Seniors born in.
It's very long. I've timed it at 1 minute, 10 seconds.
Julie Mattis took the day off work to register her 95-year-old father, Bill, for the COVID-19 vaccine.
He's virtually been at home since last March, and we're really anxious for him to be able to get out and about to medical appointments, to the dentist, and feel, really safe doing so.
When the call centers opened this morning, 1.7 million calls came through in the first 3 hours, even though only 55,000 seniors are eligible in this round.
Some of the issues are technical and caused by the sheer massive volume of calls. Obviously, as call volumes decrease over the next number of days, that will increase the efficiency of everyone involved in the system. But as well as it's our expectation as we go through the coming weeks that we'll be adding resources week into week, and that will happen this week and that will happen in coming weeks.
Fraser Health was the only health authority to launch an online booking system on the first day, and it seemed to work without a hitch.
It was just a form on Fraser Health's website, and it really took just under a minute to just punch in if you have your first name, last name, personal health number ready to go. There's a huge list of appointments to choose from.
She was able to take her grandfather in for his vaccine today. Yeah. So were many others in Fraser Health.
Yes.
Okay, so you need to sanitize both your hands.
Yeah, for sure.
Also, I need to change your mask.
Badri Narayan brought his 93-year-old grandmother.
What you must do? No choice.
She feels that it's something she has to do. It's been hard.
Only I can't go anywhere.
Because she can't go anywhere.
Nobody coming instead of home. I can't go.
Everyone's being very careful about coming inside the house.
Yeah.
And after a short time, the first dose is in the books. So when should you call for yourself or a loved one? As of today, seniors over 90 and Indigenous people over 65 can now book. Next week, those who are over 85, and the week after that, those 80 and older. As for Julie Mattis,
I'm sure everybody's on speed dial trying just like I am.
Her persistence paid off. After 6 hours of dialing, she was able to book her father in for March 15th.
Thank you for calling Island Health's COVID-19 vaccination appointment line.
And health officials are reminding people, if you didn't get through today, you can still book any time if your age group has been given the green light.
We are currently experiencing a high call volume and are not able to take your call at this time.
Tina Lovegreen, CBC News, Vancouver.
Despite more and more people getting vaccinated in BC, there is concern tonight and a reminder that vaccines aren't 100% foolproof. Our Tanya Fletcher is live with more on this. Tanya, tell us what's happened in the interior.
Yeah, there's a new outbreak at a long-term care home in Kelowna, and some of the people who tested positive had already received both doses of the vaccine. Dr. Bonnie Henry says that serves as a warning that vaccines don't automatically prevent all transmission.
And we need to be mindful right now when we still have high levels of transmission in our communities, how important it is to continue those precautions, particularly with older people and in care homes.
Okay, but there is some good news because of the immunizations. It sounds like we're about to inch closer to some semblance of normal life again. Which restrictions might we see eased and when?
Well, by spring, there's a good chance we'll be able to see small outdoor gatherings return, possibly like the Safe 6 that we had all through the summer and into the fall. But in the coming weeks, we can for sure expect in-person religious gatherings to resume. That was announced today. In fact, Dr. Bonnie Henry was asked whether people will be able to sit in the pew at church in time for Easter or Passover services next month. Her answer, yes, that is the goal.
That's our plan. My only qualifier is, we're still in the middle of this pandemic. We're not, we're in the last miles of this marathon, yes, but we still have a lot of transmission in our communities, so we want to make sure it's a careful and thoughtful, phased approach.
She also suggested that small events outside, more interprovincial travel, and possibly kids' camps could be allowed as early as spring break. But as you heard her there, she cautions that we will slowly need to turn up the dial, and it's not going to be the flick of a switch back to normal. Anita?
I'm sure everyone has their fingers crossed. Thanks very much, Tanya. Well, multiple complaints didn't stop two Vancouver party hosts from allegedly having people over at a downtown condo. Reasoning didn't deter them either. Now the men have been arrested and charged for breaking BC's COVID-19 pandemic health protocols.
When people simply don't get the message and flagrantly ignore the rules, we're left with no choice but to act when people are putting others at risk of contracting COVID.
He says an investigation began in February after 10 complaints. A judge granted a warrant allowing officers to search the suite. And on Saturday night, police arrested 37-year-old Manjinder Segu and 35-year-old Sanad Reyes. They now face multiple charges for failing to comply with a health order. 6 guests who were in the suite at the time were each fined $230. A new poll shows British Columbians are eager to roll up their sleeve for a COVID-19 vaccine. The Angus Reid Institute survey, conducted in partnership with CBC BC, shows 66% of residents want a shot as soon as possible. That's up 39% who gave the same answer in September. Only 16% would wait to get the vaccine, compared with a high of 38% last fall. The number of people who say they wouldn't get the vaccine remains steady at 12%. Main reasons given were fears of long-term and short-term side effects and a mistrust of political and health officials. Well, he was a Haida elder, a support worker, and dancer. Woodrow Morrison, a beloved Vancouverite, is among the British Columbians who have died of COVID-19. The CBC's John Hernandez spoke with his family, which plans to honor his legacy of storytelling.
They called him Uncle Woody, and he was never too hard to spot in Vancouver. From the dance floor to the stage, even to movie sets, you could always count on Woodrow Morrison Jr. to give it his all.
He was a Renaissance man. I mean, the guy could do anything, and it just seemed like he was always following his passion.
Morrison was born in the Alaskan side of the Haida Territory. As a boy, he was taught to be a storyteller and history keeper. In his teens, he was sent to an American residential school.
He was beaten for speaking his language, beaten for singing his songs. It was illegal, and you get thrown in jail for doing these things.
He later joined the Navy and went to university, but he never let go of his culture. He spent the last 3 decades in Vancouver, where he reconnected with his nephew and started dancing.
When I introduced him to the dance group, I said, "This is Uncle Woody." And so everybody in the dance group started calling him Uncle.
A nickname that stuck. Uncle Woody danced well into his 70s. It was a way to heal.
It doesn't matter if I'm feeling bad, if I'm tired, if I'm sick. When I leave, I feel uplifted.
All the while, he worked as an elder support worker for the Vancouver Aboriginal Child and Family Services Society. He used his teachings and stories to reunite families, many still grappling with the legacy of colonization.
He took that uncle title to that level and understanding of this is what an uncle does.
His kindness, sensibilities, and humor stuck with him to his final days, even as a patient inside the COVID-19 ward at Vancouver General Hospital.
The first thing I thought was, he's going to give COVID quite the fight. So, and that he did.
He went out the way he was his whole entire life, with kindness, love, and joy, still teasing the nurses.
The 79-year-old passed away after a 4-week fight with COVID-19, leaving behind a wife and kids, a large extended family, and countless others he touched along the way. His family plans to raise a totem pole in his honor next year and vows to share Uncle Woody's stories for years to come. John Hernandez, CBC News, Vancouver.
And CBC BC is taking your questions about the vaccines and the province's rollout plan straight to provincial officials. We're hosting a virtual town hall this Wednesday. Dr. Bonnie Henry, Adrian Dix, who's the health minister, and other experts and officials will be on hand to answer your questions live. Our Shot will air on TV, on CBC Gem, online, and on CBC Radio. It's hosted by Stephen Quinn and myself. Find the details at cbc.ca/ourshot, and you can send your questions to bcasks@cbc.ca. Well, construction for BC's largest hospital redevelopment has kicked off. The new St. Paul's Hospital is planned as a full-service acute care hospital and integrated healthcare campus. The facility will cost more than $2 billion and have capacity for more than 500 beds. The hospital's care services include HIV and AIDS, chronic disease, emergency, as well as Indigenous and maternal health. UBC and BCIT students will use the campus to get their training. The project is expected to complete by 2027 and will replace the current St. Paul's site in downtown Vancouver. The Vancouver Park Board is deciding in just a few moments whether or not a temporary bike lane will be reinstated in Stanley Park this summer. The motion to install the bike lane was put forward as a green initiative to reduce the number of emissions. If it passes, Park Drive will split in 2 lanes between bikes and vehicles. The bike lane was set up last year, and that increased bicycle ridership by 180% in the park, but it also led to traffic congestion for motor vehicles. A study is currently underway to examine the feasibility of permanently reducing vehicle traffic in Stanley Park. North Shore Rescue is a renowned volunteer search and rescue team, and it's welcoming more women in its ranks. The team rescues more than 100 people a year on popular hiking trails in nearby mountains. Mira Baines is finding out why women on the squad are attracted to the sometimes arduous and dangerous work.
Can I run through?
Yeah. Kayla Brawley and Surya Carmichael are just 2 of 7 women on the 45-person North Shore Rescue Team. Here, they're running through exercises on a cliff in North Vancouver. But increasingly, women are bringing their expertise to the difficult work of saving lives in the backcountry. Surya Carmichael joined NSR 4 years ago and says she immediately felt comfortable.
The team, and from my experience, has been very welcoming to women, and has been great for me to have other women on the team to work with.
It helped that Kayla Brawley had already been a member. The registered nurse has volunteered with North Shore Rescue for 8 years.
I think women bring like a special element in the way that very creative problem solving, lots of experience with multitasking and just excellent skills. The women that are on the team come in with unbelievable mountaineering skills, navigation skills, rope rescue.
She says they have to be prepared for anything. Search and rescue team members can be called anytime, 24/7. North Shore Rescue pulls off about 130 operations every year, and they can be dangerous. That's where practice helps.
I think the physicality of the work for myself hasn't been impacted by the fact that I'm a woman, at all. I've never struggled with any of the tasking that I've been assigned to.
She says the best thing about being with North Shore Rescue is the camaraderie.
When you do some of these pretty dangerous things in pretty tough places and go through tough situations, you create a lot of bonds with folks.
Brawley hopes more women will sign up and join the team. Mira Baines, CBC News, Vancouver.
And later this hour, we will go more in depth on the impact of the pandemic on women who work. Coming up, I'll be speaking to Dr. Amanda Watson, whose book looks at the idealized view of mother who can do it all. She joins us for that conversation at the bottom of the hour. Meteorologist Johanna Wagstaff is on assignment again this week. Nick Czernkovich is here with the forecast. Nick, it was a gorgeous day today. In fact, I may have overdressed on the warmth factor a little bit, so I need to know what's the deal for the rest of the week.
Yeah, no doubt about it, especially in the wake of the rainfall that we saw through Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, the winds as well. We hit double digits today in Vancouver, and you know, you can expect more of that as we head through the rest of the week. I'm going to get to your long-range forecast in a bit. For now, here's what's going on. We're sitting at 6 degrees right now at Vancouver Airport, 8 at Cole Harbour. Their temperatures round about where they should be for this time of year, actually a little bit above seasonal through the afternoon hours. It's come with a fair deal of sunshine as well, or at least a mix of sun and cloud. We're seeing some cloud cover pushing up from the south right now. As we head through tonight, there's a slight chance through the overnight period we're going to see a few light spotty showers. Tomorrow morning, generally sunny conditions, although I think tomorrow afternoon, I've got about a 30% chance of seeing a very brief spotty shower. For the most part, though, we're looking at a mix of sun and cloud to mostly sunny skies. That carries us through the week. And in fact, when you look at the long-range forecast, which I'll show you in just a bit, we're looking at days of some good sunshine and double-digit temperatures. That starts with tomorrow at 11 degrees right there with a mix of sun and cloud. And again, just the slight chance of seeing a few spotty showers. And actually, when I look forward to the long-range forecast, Anita, it really doesn't look like a lot of rainfall, even in the next week and a half or 2 weeks. We'll have more on that coming up in just a bit.
Good news. Talk to you soon, Nick. Thanks.
You bet.
Well, BC's camping reservation system bombarded today by people wanting to book a spot in the next 2 months. Bookings in Ontario and Alberta also up. And as Briar Stewart tells us, it looks like a lot of Canadians plan to stay close to home again this year.
It's more than 3 months before the start of summer, but for some, camping has become a year-round experience. Robbie Boyle bought this trailer in part because of COVID.
We're not going to spend 12 grand on a cruise, right? Might as well spend 12 grand on a trailer.
BC's Golden Ears Provincial Park has nearly 500 campsites. While the summer was fully booked, even the rainy, colder months have been busy.
The traffic levels in January were far exceeded anything we've ever experienced before.
Reservations for the summer season open today, but calls have also been coming in for spring break.
We expect it to be exceptionally busy. We expect to fill at least one of the campgrounds during spring break with well over 180 parties.
Across the country, campgrounds and parks are preparing for another season of unprecedented demand. Cottage owners, too, are seeing a flood of bookings.
We're actually fully booked from end of May through to mid-September right now. We have a wait list, and we did have some bookings now, but they got canceled with the lockdown due to COVID.
The pandemic has made the great outdoors the destination, but the rest of the tourism sector is struggling.
We also need help in the urban centers.
Destination Canada says the industry is facing a $19 billion shortfall.
Canadians were terrific last year in supporting some of our resorts like Banff and Niagara region with day trips, and that's helpful, but it doesn't make up the difference for what international visitors bring.
Which is why once travel is officially allowed, Canadians will be encouraged to be domestic tourists.
That's the first thing I'll do. Bucket list item to drive across Canada.
Boyle won't need to stay in any hotels, but he will certainly check out the sites along the way. Briar Stewart, CBC News, Maple Ridge, BC.
And a reminder, you can watch this newscast live on CBC Gem. The free app is also where you can find other CBC programs. CBC Vancouver, also on Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram. Royal fallout. A day after bombshell revelations from Harry and Meghan, Britain and the world react to accusations of racism and intolerance. Thanks so much for watching our commercial-free live stream. On the theme of International Women's Day, we're taking you east to Nova Scotia to spotlight a program called Girls Leading Girls. The idea is to encourage young teenagers to mentor and see more young women and girls play tennis. But as Colleen Jones tells us, this is so much more than just a sport.
Shannon and Susie Hansen are dropping their daughters Sajora and Saivea off at tennis. Inside, their daughters are excited to get moving. This 8-week free program is called Girls Leading Girls. It's a new program with a difference. Sajora and Saivea are being mentored by teenage players who've just finished an hour of training themselves. This is their time to give back. Tallulah McNeil is one of the mentors.
Of coaching the girls and hopefully helping them learn a love for the game.
They've designed novel drills that begins with music blaring. They learn forehands and backhands with sparkly wands. They race, they jump, and yes, they hit balls too.
We get to have so much fun. Go!
Is everybody ready?
And fun is the goal. Marianne McDonald is one of the women who designed this program. She saw the need. Like many sports, tennis sees a drop-off in registration from girls as they age.
My daughter plays tennis, and I noticed that a lot of 12 to 13 to 14 were starting to, maybe go into different sports or stop playing sports, and we were losing our number of girls playing tennis. And during COVID, to one of my really good friends, her and I were talking about finding ways to help women, and this seemed to be a really good fit, that we could come up with a program that would encourage our girls, get them playing more together as a team.
Through fundraising and donations, they've made this program free. They bought the rackets and started reaching out to the community with the question, who wants to come play tennis?
My two daughters, it's nice to playing in tennis.
That's Dani Awadas watching her daughters Mawada and Mauza play. And remember Sajora and Saibea? Their mom Susie says the new program might just encourage a lifetime love of the sport, and the mentorship might be the key.
And I love that their teachers are young girls that are out there. They could be doing anything else, but they're in here teaching our young girls to be able to play tennis. I think that's awesome. It's really, really huge for them to be mentors, because that's the only way that they're going to see themselves in the sport, right? Is to see other young girls doing the same thing. So I think it's great.
It's taken a lot of energy to get girls leading girls to this stage, plus a commitment not just from Marianne McDonald, but also the young women mentoring, sharing their love for the sport, and hopefully hooking an even younger generation of players to love it too. Colleen Jones, CBC News, Halifax.
All right, we'll be back in a few seconds, with more news from around the world. Oprah Winfrey's primetime interview with Prince Harry and Meghan last night is still getting a lot of strong reaction today. The couple revealed details that shed more light on their decision to step back from royal life. But as Renee Filipponi reports, there was one thing the Duchess of Sussex brought up in the 2-hour-long conversation that has shocked many.
It was a fairy tale moment, and with it came the promise of a new chapter for the British monarchy. Now, not even 3 years later, it's ended in a tell-all interview and allegations of racism towards their young son, Archie.
And also concerns and conversations about how dark his skin might be when he's born.
What? Today, Oprah Winfrey said Harry later made it clear this wasn't coming from the Queen.
That it was not his grandmother nor his grandfather that were a part of those conversations.
But it's that quote that captured headlines and the attention of the British people.
I'm happy that she spoke out about it. I feel like people need to know. I think that they get away with a lot of things. So I'm happy that she said something, and now people know. I know some people won't believe it, but it's true.
Meghan says the treatment she received had her thinking of suicide. But some well-known critics of the couple paint the interview as self-serving and one-sided.
They basically make out the entire royal family a bunch of white supremacists by dropping this race bombshell.
It's been horrific to watch some of what I've seen this morning.
This marketing consultant says racism has always been a factor in the way Meghan has been covered by the press, but says now attention is directed at the palace and it must take action.
I think these things need to be investigated as a matter of urgency in the same way that they were happy to report last week that they would be investigating within the royal household about these claims of bullying against Meghan.
And for some in Parliament, the issues raised during the interview go far beyond the walls of the palace.
It's bigger in a sense than just the royal family because,
that experience of racism, I'm sad to say, is too prevalent still in 21st century Britain. We all have to take that seriously.
For his part, the Prime Minister would only say he has the highest admiration for the Queen.
I've spent a long time now not commenting on royal family matters, and I don't intend to depart from that today.
And for now, Buckingham Palace is silent about the damaging and shocking claims made about life inside the firm. Renee Filipponi, CBC News, London.
The departure of Harry and Meghan from the firm has been playing out in the press for a while, but this interview represents a remarkably public rupture. And as Thomas Dagla explains, why it is the most dramatic crisis Buckingham Palace has faced in decades.
What a difference a year can make. This Commonwealth Day service would turn out to be Prince Harry and Meghan's last public engagement as working royals.
When we gathered
a year later, Westminster Abbey nearly empty due to COVID, and the royal family facing a threat of the existential kind.
I'm reminded once again that the essence of the Commonwealth is its remarkable diversity.
It's clearer than ever the monarchy's past stands in stark contrast with the present. Remember, many of those Commonwealth nations were once controlled by Britain, and it's hard to separate the monarchy from that colonial history.
These are archaic institutions that are dripping in systemic racism and gender discrimination.
Call it a moment of reckoning, but not the first one, since this interview
that they were willing to lie to protect other members of the family
reminded many of that one.
Well, the enemy was my husband's department.
Diana's explosive BBC tell-all in '95, then the royal family's inaction immediately following her death may be the only comparable crises in recent memory. Combined with Prince Andrew's fall from grace, British Republicans sense an opportunity.
The monarchy does not represent British values. I mean, I think people are absolutely appalled. It does damage, particularly to Charles, William, and others, who are going to be the only ones left on the stage when the Queen dies.
Commonwealth nation Barbados already had plans to drop Queen Elizabeth as its head of state later this year. And in Canada, there's been declining support too, says this pollster, but
the bar to make a change around the monarchy is so high that I think it will be generations before anyone's ready to go there.
Amid 1,200 years of history, this may yet prove as important a chapter as any. Thomas Dagg, CBC News, Toronto.
Hundreds of protesters took to the streets in Myanmar once again today, despite an escalating crackdown by security forces. The country has been roiled by widespread unrest ever since the army overthrew the elected government on February 1st. The military's violent response against anti-coup demonstrations has left more than 50 people dead. In Yangon, some protesters strung women's clothes across roads to hold back police and soldiers. Walking under such items is traditionally considered bad luck and is also seen as emasculating. Well, the trial of the former police officer charged in the death of George Floyd has been delayed once again. Floyd died in police custody last July in Minneapolis. Jury selection in the case was supposed to start today, but as the CBC's Susan Ormiston explains, legal arguments about the exact charges have been put on hold.
Turn me around. 10 months after the brutal killing of George Floyd here in Minneapolis, with a police officer kneeling on his neck, the trial of that officer, Derek Chauvin, got underway. Chauvin is charged with second-degree murder and manslaughter in Floyd's death. The trial was actually paused today as the court deliberated adding a third-degree murder charge. The state arguing the trial can't proceed until that is resolved, so prospective jurors were told to go home for now. Hundreds of demonstrators have been out here for much of the day fighting for justice, and for them, the only just result in this case is a conviction. This has been peaceful, but the city is on edge, anxious that this trial, televised minute by minute, will provoke high emotions, and the courthouse is surrounded by cement barricades, high fencing, concertina wire. The Minnesota National Guard has been called up, an estimated $36 million spent on security. These demonstrators say they're going to be out here every day of this long trial. We don't expect a verdict till maybe mid-April or the end of April. And the courtroom itself is very restricted because of COVID. Susan Ormiston, CBC News, Minneapolis.
Well, the Pope has ended his history-making trip to Iraq. His 4-day visit was the first ever to the country by a pope. Francis flew back to the Vatican from Baghdad earlier today. During his visit, he met with Christian and Muslim leaders. The Pope also went to Mosul, the city that had been an ISIS stronghold, to preach peaceful coexistence. It was the Pope's first international trip since the start of the pandemic. Well, on this International Women's Day, we speak about what has been a very challenging year for women in particular. With more and more women forced to juggle job and family life, that's coming up.
British Columbia now, where 2 newspapers are developing a clearer picture of the future, and in the process leaving a lot of photographers in the dark. Ian Hannah-Mansing has tonight's Canada Online.
Big turns in one spot. It kind of pulled us out here, pulled us out there.
It looks like just another media scrum, but this photographer and his camera are part of a technological revolution in the newspaper business.
Not since the inception of the 35mm camera in news photography has there been such a radical change.
Nick Didlick works for the Vancouver Sun. He's using a digital camera. It records pictures on a computer disc rather than film.
This is the first practical digital camera out on the market, one that professional photographers could really use.
Jerry Carman is with the Vancouver province. He's also trying out the digital camera. Quite a change after 20 years of shooting film.
The technique of actually taking the pictures is the easiest part. The toughest part for me, being a real techno-peasant, was learning how to use the computers.
And this is where the computer comes in. Traditionally, photographers have to send their film back to the newspaper for processing or find some place to develop it themselves. But this camera plugs into a laptop computer, and a photographer can instantly look at his picture. He can also electronically adjust the way it appears. The computer can then be hooked up to a telephone line, and the picture can be sent from Whistler Mountain to the Sun newsroom in Vancouver in less than 2 minutes. The Sun and Province say in a few months they'll become the first major papers in North America and perhaps the world to go entirely without film.
It's great. It's taken the Vancouver Sun from the early 80s technology into 1995 overnight. It means now that I can travel anywhere and transmit a picture back immediately.
But not everyone embraces this change. It's not hard to find people here who will say, privately at least, the switch from film to digital is more trouble than it's worth.
Gone, of course, will be the newspaper developing lab. And for those who work here, if they're lucky, they'll get another job at the paper. If they're not...
I'm not lucky. I guess I'll be part of the other thousands of people in the rest of Canada, scared, looking for a job.
I shot some stuff here where you just had a white background and it's hot.
The cameras have some technical limitations. One affects action photography. The digitals can't shoot more than 2 pictures per second, compared to some conventional cameras that shoot 10. Carmen says he can make the adjustments, but on this shoot, he carried a film backup just in case.
Always cover your butt. I know I'm going to come back with pictures, whether it's on digital or film. Hopefully it'll always be on digital.
The first big batch of new cameras, a half dozen of them, are supposed to arrive on Monday. The switch to digital is scheduled to be completed by the end of June. Ian Hannah-Mansing, CBC News, Vancouver.
Here are some of the stories we're following tonight on CBC Vancouver News.
So I'm sure everybody's on speed dial trying just like I am.
BC's vaccine call centers received 1 million calls in the first hour of opening today. immunization appointments opened up for people over the age of 90. Some had to wait hours to get an appointment over the phone. Fraser Health is the only health authority with an online booking system, and people who booked that way seem to have gotten through right away.
Canadians were terrific last year in supporting some of our resorts like Banff and Niagara region with day trips, and that's helpful, but it doesn't make up the difference for what international visitors bring.
BC's camping reservation site opened this morning, inundated with people wanting to book outdoor trips this summer. There's been a surge in demand for outdoor activities as people anticipate another summer closer to home. But tourism operators in BC say it will still be a tough year with the lack of international travelers. And Canadians across the country have started booking appointments to get the COVID-19 vaccine. But how fast you get it may depend on where you live. Susanna De Silva walks us through some of the frustration.
Today turned out much better than Badri Narayan and his 94-year-old grandmother expected.
I can't talk about it. She's old, she can't talk a lot of English, but she's very excited.
When BC announced those 90 and over and Indigenous elders over 65 could book their shots, appointments were supposed to begin next week, but some locations were already up and running today.
I just made sure to go in right away at 7 a.m. and I was lucky, I guess, and I was able to find an appointment with her for her today, and it took about 5 minutes.
But their health authority is the only one in the province offering an online booking option.
We are currently experiencing a high call volume and are not able to take your call at this time.
Julie Mattis spent 6 hours calling before getting her 95-year-old father an appointment for next week.
This is so important, and everybody else, I can understand that they're just as anxious as I am to get their elderly loved ones vaccinated.
55,000 people fell into the age group eligible to register today. 1.7 million people called in the first 3 hours.
We have to do better in responding as well, and we will need to, because the demand isn't going to get less, it's going to grow.
It's exciting. And that demand is growing across the country.
Oh, I'm delighted. Couldn't wait for it.
One of several mobile vaccine clinics happening today in Toronto made a visit to this seniors residence.
It's an amazing thing. It's almost like winning the lottery. It means that there's a window or there's a light at the end of the tunnel.
The city will be opening 3 mass vaccination clinics next week as long as expected doses arrive. And in Alberta, the province will start vaccinating those 50 and older on Wednesday with the newly arrived AstraZeneca vaccine. And while many still have questions and concerns about when it will be their turn,
No, not but undertaken. Yeah, she's very happy and no pain.
Those who have gotten through are grateful. Susanna De Silva, CBC News, Vancouver.
Well, today is International Women's Day. March 8th celebrates the achievements of women across the world, as well as raise awareness about the challenges they still face.
It's the birthday present Adon Sinclair.
Protesters in Spain marched to raise awareness about gender-based violence and labor discrimination. Most participants expressed concern about gender exploitation. Due to COVID control measures, demonstrations were not nearly as massive as last year, when tens of thousands flooded the streets across the country. For women with families, the stresses of the pandemic have changed the ways in which women work. Plenty of mothers who work from home are simultaneously juggling jobs and family care, adding more anxiety to fulfilling the social expectations of motherhood. Joining us tonight is Dr. Amanda Watson, a sociology lecturer at SFU. Her book, The Juggling Mother, deconstructs views of the idealized mother who can do it all. Thanks for joining us today, Amanda.
Thank you very much for having me.
Let's start with how women are being overworked, perhaps more than men during the pandemic. What do we know about this?
Well, we know that women disproportionately left paid work, needing to take care of the homeschooling obligation that was suddenly an emergency situation back in March. And also, we know based on research that's come out even since the fall, that women are still disproportionately taking on more unpaid work in the home, even as dual earning heterosexual couples both are home together at the same time. So we are seeing like a double load of unpaid work on women in the pandemic.
I know for myself as a new mom, the mother who can do it all is everywhere, mainly on my Instagram. The mom who dresses her kid perfectly, feeds him perfectly, the house is out of a magazine, and she's an entrepreneur. What is the danger with all of us being bombarded with these images all the time, in a regular time, but also during this pandemic time?
Well, we're in a mental health crisis. I think it's time to call it that. And we know, based on women's reports from the fall and now into the spring, that women are disproportionately experiencing high rates of anxiety and depression, along with stress. And so I think, that social media pressure, when we're scrolling through our own kind of like digital lives, it certainly intensifies things. And I think we all need a break. A friend of mine described it this morning as like, we were juggling before, and now we're like catching an elephant, and we're unable to keep up these untenable labors.
So what can be done to help women during this time? And the pandemic may be over within the next year or so. So during this time and after.
I mean, if this pandemic has taught us anything, it's that these labor burdens were stubbornly entrenched. This gendered division of unpaid work was with us before the pandemic. And my hope is that it's been laid bare so families can maybe start to have different conversations privately. And I've also seen a lot of good work in other countries about how prioritizing universal, accessible, affordable, and high quality childcare and prioritizing keeping schools open can do so much to reduce inequality between women and also between their families.
Dr. Amanda Watson, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much.
Well, you've paid for your online purchase, but when it arrives, you're told to cough up some money for duties and fees. How some companies are cashing in on those duty charges with hidden fees. Next. And at 6:40, you are looking at a live shot of downtown Victoria from the Swans Hotel. It was a beautiful day today. Felt like spring. So how long can we hang outside without getting rained on? The full forecast is next.
When I first got the email from the producer talking about Kingdom of the Tide, I couldn't believe the topic because it was exactly on the things that I grew up obsessed about. There are a couple beaches on Quadra Island that I have been coming to since I was 5 years old. I mean, I remember the first time finding crabs and little fish under rocks, and to this day, my favorite thing to do is to scurry around the intertidal zone, flipping over rocks and discovering little animals. Animals like the barnacles and the limpets that we might otherwise walk right by on the beach, we are suddenly taken into their world and we realize how fascinating they are. Filming the Suzuki Diaries was a really remarkable and memorable experience to me because I was working alongside my dad. This is really cheesy.
I know.
David has hosted The Nature of Things since before I was born, and because of that, he spent a lot of time away from us, from his family. And I always wondered growing up, what is he doing while he's away from us? One memory in particular stands out when we were in France filming on somebody's biodynamic farm. I was completely in over my head, and I remember looking over at David and marveling at how composed and how interested. It was so natural, and it was really interesting for me to just be thrown in it off the deep end and to have to sink or swim.
Oh, look at this, Sarika, look.
The only two pieces of advice he ever gave me during that whole series was be yourself and listen. And those two pieces of advice allowed me to express myself and follow my own inner curiosity. And this is one of the things that I think The Nature of Things does so well. The Nature of Things is curious about the wild, about nature, about science, and about people. And that curiosity is infectious, and it attracts viewers and lets them in on the curiosity.
You have questions about the vaccine, and we want to hear from you. Join us for a very special CBC British Columbia Town Hall, Our Shot, Vaccinating BC, on March 10th at 7 p.m. Well, you've probably had a package or two or more delivered to you over the last year, and it's likely something was dropped off by the biggest courier company in the world. That's DHL. Well, a Calgary mother is accusing the courier giant of cashing in on hidden fees. Erica Johnson and CBC's Go Public team got her story.
It's the birthday present Adon Sinclair really wanted, a jersey of his favorite football team, all the way from Ireland. His mom wanted to make sure the gift made it to Calgary on time.
Delivery from to Canada is $25.
So she paid extra to ship with DHL, the largest courier company in the world, then waited for delivery. But got an email from the company instead, saying she had to pay another $23 first.
It's feeling like I'm being held, my items are being held ransom.
Sinclair asks why the fees are so high on a $68 jersey. The company says there's a mandatory import duty and steers her to a government website. But when Sinclair presses, she learns of that $23, only about $5 went to the government. The rest, $17 plus tax, was a processing fee going entirely to DHL.
If this is a standard fee, why am I just finding out about this now? It seems a little dirty of a company to not tell you until you have my package, and then you're going to tell me about all these fees.
Sinclair's got company online, others unhappy about DHL's unexpected fees on top of its shipping charges.
Those fees are highway robbery.
This corporate ethics lawyer says DHL needs to be more transparent.
This matters to people. And if it matters to your customers, it should matter to you as the company, and you should prioritize fixing this.
DHL says it charges a nominal fee for processing government paperwork and that information about the fee is available on its website. Michelle Sinclair says she won't use DHL again, but says it was worth the hit to her pocketbook to see the smile on her kid's face. Erica Johnson, CBC News, Vancouver.
Meteorologist Johanna Wagstaff is on assignment this week. Nick Czernkovich joins us live with the full forecast. Nick, I'm thinking, I know you mentioned rain, but it won't be so bad, right?
No, it won't. Actually, we're not looking at a lot. And I was also thinking, Anita, as we had talked last time, that, you know, when you think about 10 degrees, right? When you're coming out of the summer, that feels cold. But when you're coming into the summer, this is a welcome change.
Totally.
Right? Yeah. Anyway, we're looking at more in the way of double digits heading into the week. Temperatures, degree, 2 degrees above the seasonal mark as we head through the next few days. And the rain that I mentioned off the top there, that's not coming until next weekend. And even that doesn't look like a lot in the way of rain. It's more showers than anything else. Right now, what we're dealing with is just some cloud cover pushing in from the south here. So mainly cloudy skies, had a few sunny breaks. I think we may see a few spotty showers, but most of this coming through the overnight period tonight, and then things generally clearing up. What we're seeing is high pressure slowly starting to build in place here. And as it does, we're actually going to get some pretty good conditions. So overnight tonight, a few spotty showers. Tomorrow morning and into the afternoon, a few spotty showers. But I also think we're going to see some good sunshine mixed in there as well. Here's the forecast through the morning hours there. Whole system begins to dissipate. Again, some cloud cover in there. As we head through the afternoon, again, some very light isolated spotty showers, but for the most part, it's going to be a mix of sun and cloud across the region. The whole system starts to break up, and then as we head through Wednesday and Thursday, generally dry conditions. Again, in the higher elevations, a weak wave going through, but I don't think we're going to see precipitation down in the Vancouver area. And in fact, as we head into Thursday, models showing basically just sunny skies across the board. Now today, hitting 10 degrees, the average for this time of year, 9.5. So at or above the seasonal mark, if you will, sitting now at 6 degrees. down in the Vancouver area, one out toward Revelstoke there. Temperatures, again, about seasonal for the most part. As we head through tomorrow, we're looking at temperatures to be more or less the same. I mentioned that little wave that's moving through, so in addition to the light spotty showers that you might see in the Vancouver area, I think up toward Whistler and Squamish, we're going to see perhaps a little bit of mixed precipitation, not a lot, nothing really accumulating there, but a little bit of it, as well as out toward Cranbrook. Otherwise, some pretty good sunny skies there. Showers more likely, though, out toward Vancouver Island. We're looking at areas like Comox down toward Victoria, Nanaimo, and Tofino, all picking up some rain showers, not really heavy rainfall, and again, through some of the higher elevations. 5-day forecast as we head through Vancouver there, double digits tomorrow. These 9s could very easily turn into 10s for Wednesday and Thursday. Fair deal of sunshine in the forecast there. As we head through Friday, look for increase in cloud cover. And again, the icon makes it look like a lot of rainfall. At this point, as we look 5 days out, really heading into the weekend, it looks like just some light showers, if anything. Anita.
Okay, thanks, Nick.
You bet.
Well, a Surrey boy with autism who struggles with eating got some surprise local support recently from a company that makes waffles. It all began last year when his eating troubles became worse after he came down with a suspected case of COVID-19.
When Jericho gets sick, it's really, really extreme. So he goes into no drinking and no eating. He had to relearn how to drink and eat all over again. The only thing really he accepted was Nature's Path. Maple cinnamon waffles. We've got the news that they're completely discontinued. So I tried some other waffles to kind of slip them in and see if they were okay, but it was like I was giving him dirt. But at that point, I had no other choice. Nature's Path heard about the story and they tried to locate the remaining ones. They worked really hard to replicate the recipe. It's relieving that I'm not alone.
At 25 years old, it's a phenomenon that shows no signs of slowing down. How the pandemic has popularized Pokemon, coming up.
The world is not back to normal. Life has not fully resumed. We are not at the finish line yet.
We know we can do it.
As phase 3 of the economic
New
restart
COVID restrictions will mean that in times like these, get trusted news from a trusted source, your public broadcaster. Anytime, anywhere, anyway. CBC Vancouver.
Taking the mechanics because I want to drive trucks, so I want to learn the truck the inside out before I actually drive it. A woman can do just about anything a man can do, and I think I've been living by that my whole life, or I wouldn't be here. I'd be probably sitting in an office in a mechanic shop.
I can honestly say none of my 3 sons have a passion for vehicles, cars, trucks, equipment like Sadine does. None of them. They truly enjoyed coming home in a dump truck or being picked up in a dump truck. So I think that's probably a lot of where Sadine gets her passion from for cars and trucks.
I would love to work amongst my family, which would be really nice. I know they don't have any mechanics, but I would like to be the first one in the family to work on their trucks. It would be nice.
You're not only bringing a dream come true for me or your uncle, but also for yourself and for the family business. And it's gonna really put a big smile on my face.
I've been in and out of truck shops the first 20 years of my life, taking trucks into the shops to be repaired, and I've never, ever seen a woman mechanic working in the trucking industry, and especially a black woman.
Being a female in the trade, I find you have to prove yourself just a little bit harder than being male, because you know that eyes are on you. You know you're being watched. You just know you have to push yourself just that much harder. You have to show your abilities.
She's going to probably have some hurdles to go through, as a black woman, because, she's always going to have to prove her point that she's capable and that she can hold on to hold her ground.
Hi, my twins! Hi, Zai! My kids have seen me struggle to take care of them in life. I mean, to see me do something that this great, to like go to school and actually finish something, I think it's great for my kids to see. How was your guys' day today? That their mother is doing more than, I don't know, just taking care of them and knowing that she can take care of herself. And that was one thing that I wanted to do, was to come back to school, go on in life with their education, then go, oh, my mom did this at 38 years old. I can do this now. So I'm just there to encourage my kids. And if I don't have to say it and they can see the encouragement, I think that's good too.
I'm getting good grades. I mean, I can't complain. I enjoy getting up every Tuesday and going into shop every day. I enjoy waking up and at 9 o'clock and getting on that online class. And I mean, for them to see that mom loves doing this and that she's getting good grades, maybe if they see me doing that, then what they love to do most, and they'll carry that throughout school and their lives.
Hi, I'm Amy Bell, and here's what's in your CBC Vancouver inbox.
Celebrate International Women's Day with Anita Bathe at BIV's virtual Influential Women in Business Awards luncheon. Get your tickets today at BIV.com. And do you have questions about the vaccine? Tune in to CBC TV and radio on March 10th at 7 p.m. for our town hall, Our Shot, Vaccinating BC. Get all the details at cbc.ca/ourshot.
Can you believe it? This year marks the 25th anniversary of Pokemon. And with people stuck at home during the pandemic, its popularity has only grown. The CBC's Emily Fitzpatrick is also a fan of Pokemon, so she's looking at how the trend is once again catching them all.
Well, if you're anything like me, you might have comic books, Beanie Babies, or Pokemon cards stashed away in your parents' basement. Well, it might be time to dig out the Pokemon cards, because they're back in a big way. Certain cards can sell for thousands of dollars. Here at Warp 2 Comics, they can barely keep stock on the shelves.
The demand is way outstripping the supply, but we're trying to keep up as best we can.
It's been 25 years since the release of Pokemon back in 1996. Dave Bryanton of Warp 2 Comics says the popularity of the series and cards has been steady since then. But with the release of Pokemon Go, a Pokemon movie, and now the pandemic, things have escalated.
Pokemon kind of came to mind. Later on, shortly after, some celebrities actually grabbed a hold of Pokemon, and they had a few tweets out there which caught the attention of people at home, and them doing Pokemon with their kids at home. And that's when we really saw things take off in April, May of last year.
When they do get cards in stock, they go fast for $7 a pop. But the older generation has an upper hand. The newfound popularity has former Pokemon enthusiasts digging up their old collections. Bryanton says recently a card found in an old shoebox full of an Edmonton man's childhood collection sold for close to $10,000.
We oftentimes get the story of, oh, I had so many cards and my mom threw them out, or my dad cleaned my closet up and everything ended up in the garbage, which is a really tough story.
And this expert collector says you never know what's going to evolve into the next trend.
In 10, 15, 20 years, are you going to be able to go back and open your little hutch of Beanie Babies, and you'll find that one rare Beanie Baby that everybody's out there looking for. So, you never know what is going to be valuable, and I really suggest just keeping good care of whatever you do, whether it be a Star Wars toy, whether it be a Pokemon toy, whether it be a Bobby Orr rookie card.
Well, if your dad does manage to track down your perfectly preserved Pokemon cards in the basement, you'll want to check to see if the corners are in good condition, and to see if they're worth anything, you might want to do a little bit of research online. Emily Fitzpatrick, CBC News, Edmonton.
Megan mentioned Pokemon cards, Beanie Babies, and comic books in your parents' basement. Well, I think I might have all three, plus some pogs. Remember those? Got to dig them out. All right, that is it for our show tonight. Dan is here at 11 o'clock after the National. And if you want more from our program, you can head to cbc.ca/BC. We'll leave you tonight with photos taken at Fraser Health's first vaccination clinic for those over the age of 90 today. Some beautiful images captured by our photographer, Ben Nelms, and more heartening images like these still to come. Bye for now.